GOP Senator John Kennedy decided to ask a curious question to one of Biden's nominees for the Justice Department. His name is Hampton Dellinger. And during his confirmation hearing, Senator Kennedy wanted to know if he believes in God. I wonder why. Let's watch.
Do you believe in God?
Senator, I have faith, I believe. I certainly.
A lot of people have faith.
Right.
Did it ever occur to you that some people may base their position on abortion on their faith?
Senator, I sincerely appreciate people who have a different position on abortion than I do.
You sure don't tweet it. Have you ever tweeted that?
Well, Senator, I'm saying it now under oath, and I do.
Yeah, you're up to be nominated. You want me to vote for you?
Well, Senator, I am determined to tell the truth, and if I could make clear, Senator, and I appreciate your question, your concern, that Senator, I recognize the difference between someone saying something, inartfully as a private citizen and working as a lawyer, and I think I've got a 30-year track record of being open-minded.
Okay, I get all that.
No, there are no winners here. Dellinger handled that poorly, to say the least. And Senator Kennedy is asking a question that's completely irrelevant to someone who is being confirmed for a government position, because we live in a country that has a separation of church and state. So what is this about? Like, what prompted this? Well, apparently in a tweet from 2019, the DOJ nominee wrote about abortion, stating there were some Republican women and a handful of Democrats who want government, not women, to control women's bodies. But if there were no Republican men in elected office, there would be no abortion bans. So Kennedy then claimed the tweet suggested that anti-abortion Republicans only hold that stance because they are misogynistic. So he's like needlessly stretching and making it seem as though Dellinger said something that he didn't actually say. Garbage. Just Senator Kennedy part of this garbage, but Dellinger, just shoot back and say this question is irrelevant for the position I've been nominated for. My religious beliefs, my faith, that's my personal business, and you can buzz off. How about that?
Yeah, there's two parts here. One is the weakness of the Democrats, and the other is the egos of the elites. So look, the religion part is, and what Kennedy said is outrageous. That's obvious to me, right? But so how could Hampton Dellinger have handled it differently? He could have said, Senator Kennedy, you know that in the United States Constitution, it says very clearly we shall not establish a religion, and that there should be no religious test for office. So I find your question deeply inappropriate and unconstitutional. Now that would have been a right way and a constitutional way to handle it, and that might have put him back on his heels. But why would that have been a problem? Because Democrats are told when they go into these hearings, bow your head and be a lapdog for Republicans. Never challenge them, okay? Because we need them. No, you don't. You don't need their votes for confirmation at all. You just need to get the Democrats. But they're worried, oh my God, if I offend Kennedy, Manchin might catch feelings because or maybe Sinema catches feelings on behalf of our corporate donors. And so since we're all in service of the Republican Party, whether we're pretending to be Democrats or not, every Democrat has to go and castrate himself before Republicans when they're going for confirmation hearings.
I mean, can you imagine that line of questioning from Elmer Fudd and you just like shrivel up? Like he didn't know how to handle it.
Yeah.
Just, I liked your answer a lot better, your proposed answer, right? I think it was civil yet strong, but basically any response that is stronger than what we just experienced with Dellinger there. And look, in the grand scheme of things, who cares? Like, is Dellinger getting confirmed gonna change your quality of life in any way? No, it's probably not. Very unlikely to change your quality of life. But what frustrates me about that exchange is what we keep seeing over and over again in government, whether it's local politics or on a federal level. Religion is not supposed to determine how we live our lives, period. No specific religion, no religion at all. You should have religious liberty. You should practice the religion that you feel drawn to. But if you don't want to practice any religion, you shouldn't have to. And we still live in an age where if you happen to be agnostic, you happen to be an atheist, it's incredibly difficult to get elected into either local office or certainly federal office. It's so Anyway, and then those religious beliefs end up seeping into the legislation that ends up getting passed. And then it affects our lives regardless of whether we believe in something or we don't. It's unacceptable.
Well, then there's the hypocrisy, right? So when Amy Coney Barrett was up for a lower judicial position, not the Supreme Court position, Dianne Feinstein asked her about her religion because she says she's guided by her religion. Well, if you're gonna go into the federal judiciary, well, and she has, she's in a cult, but you're not supposed to say that. You're supposed to be polite and say a sect, an offshoot of Christianity where the wife pledges to serve her master, the husband, et cetera, et cetera. And so I don't know what her husband thinks. Do we have to pull him in to see? Because she said, I'm guided by whatever this is absurd, right? But Feinstein didn't go in any of that direction. She just asked one question about the religion. All of the Republicans lost it. Oh my God, how could you bring up religion in judicial nomination? Oh, in nomination proceedings. Oh, he brought up religion. Now John Kennedy brings up religion. Everybody's like, yeah, way to be, man, yeah. They're like, oh, is that guy even Christian? I don't know, man. Maybe he's a Jew or something, right? Or, oh my God, a Buddhist. Atheist. I can't even believe the Democrats brought up religion. Like, they just don't care about hypocrisy.
No,
they don't care about it at all, right?
Of course they don't.
And if you push back at all, then John Kennedy's gonna say, my ego is, I am a senator. How dare you talk back to me? By the way, here's another answer. I'm pro-choice. I'm a Democrat. I said that tweet and I meant that tweet. So you're allowed to have your opinions on abortion. I'm allowed to have my opinions on abortion. And no, I do not agree with you. Do I have to agree with you to take a position in a Democratic administration? Next question, right?
Yeah.
But if you did that, all of Washington would melt. Oh my God, that is a beloved, cherished senator. He's an elite. You're not allowed to talk back to the elites.
Well, speaking of being elite, I just want to note that while Senator Kennedy acts like Elmer Fudd, in reality, he's a Rhodes Scholar. So he's not a dummy. He just presents himself as one to appeal to the Republican Party. And if I remember correctly, Senator Kennedy was a Democrat who switched party affiliation, right?
I think so, and so we covered that before. It slips my mind, but he did endorse John Kerry in 2004. I'm positive about that, right? And so and once he shredded a Trump appointee for a judge position, but that was on the actual law. He asked him like 3 simple law questions and the guy had no idea. And he's been trying to make up for it ever since because then the right wing was furious at him. How dare you ask simple legal questions? Trump gets to appoint his cousin if he wants to and his driver and his chauffeur if he wants to. And so ever since then, John Kennedy went from tweaking and being slightly reasonable on 10% of the issues to being the dumbest guy on purpose. He went to Oxford. Yeah. He's not dumb.
Yeah, and I am right. It was just confirmed by Brett Ehrlich, thank you, Brett, that he did in fact switch parties.
Yeah, and so this is all an act by John Kennedy. And what frustrates me as always with the mainstream media is they never tell you he's acting. All these politicians are acting. Kennedy is acting dumb on purpose. And if Dellinger had challenged them in a very reasonable way, or just answered the question in an honest way, then Kennedy would have acted as if his ego was bruised and been like, oh, I'm offended. And that's why Dellinger comes in and goes, I'm so sorry, I said it inartfully. I meant to agree with you, master. I meant to agree with you, right? Look, we're tough on Dellinger. Everybody does it, right? But the people who allow the Kabuki theater to happen in the first place is the media. If they just said, Kennedy, this is an outrage. If all the media said, this is the most unconstitutional question we've ever seen in a hearing, then maybe he would be shy about doing it next time. Instead, they say, oh no, Dellinger should bow his head. That is a great elite senator. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.